Emptiness within relationships is not a curse that comes from others, but a mirror reflecting the hollowness we refuse to face within ourselves. We imagine that another person will complete us, that love will cure our restlessness, that intimacy will silence our inner void. Yet the truth is far more brutal. No relationship can rescue a person who has not first confronted their own emptiness. The hunger of the soul cannot be fed by another's affection, for affection alone cannot replace meaning, nor can it fill the space where the self has been neglected. You feel empty in relationships because you are carrying unresolved conflicts within yourself, battles that are not fought outwardly but inwardly, in the silent corners of the psyche where the shadow dwells. When two people come together in intimacy, they do not meet merely as bodies or even as personalities. They meet as whole psychic worlds, each carrying memories, fears, desires, and repressed fragments of the self. The problem begins when you believe that love will heal these fractures automatically, that the presence of another will silence the voices you refuse to face in solitude. But the psyche does not allow shortcuts. Whatever you suppress returns, and intimacy is the stage where it reveals itself most ruthlessly. That is why so many relationships become battlegrounds, not because of the other, but because the unresolved within you has been projected outward. The emptiness you feel is not born from lack of affection, but from the unresolved fractures you drag into every bond. You expect your partner to comfort your loneliness, to redeem your disappointments, to give purpose to your days, and yet these are burdens they cannot carry for long. No partner, no matter how loving, can endure the weight of another's unhealed wounds. What you repress in yourself becomes poison in the relationship, and it slowly suffocates both people. The anger you deny in yourself leaks out as irritability toward them. The sadness you refuse to face turns into demands for their reassurance. The insecurities you bury transform into accusations. The partner becomes a mirror, reflecting not only your love but also your shadow, and if you refuse to recognize it, you will blame them for the chaos that belongs to you. Emptiness thrives in these situations because you have not yet accepted that the conflicts within must be resolved by you alone. A relationship cannot absolve you of this responsibility. The partner can support you, but they cannot substitute for your inner work. It is a dangerous illusion to believe otherwise, for it turns intimacy into a constant cycle of disappointment. You will seek in them what you have denied yourself, and when they fail to provide it, you will feel abandoned, unloved, or misunderstood. But the truth is harsher. It is not they who have abandoned you, but you who have abandoned yourself. To confront these inner conflicts is to strip away illusions and face the shadow that haunts you. It means acknowledging the rage, the envy, the insecurity, the grief, and the loneliness that you have tried to bury. This confrontation is not pleasant. It feels like breaking apart, like admitting weakness. But it is the only way to free relationships from the suffocating expectation that they must heal what only you can. Until you undertake this work, your emptiness will follow you from one partner to the next, repeating the same cycle under different faces. True intimacy is possible only when two individuals have faced their shadows, when they do not seek in each other's salvation, but companionship on the path of becoming whole. The second reason you feel empty in relationships is because you enter them with the illusion that another person will complete you, as if you were born a fragment and they are the missing piece. This is a deep psychological error, for it places the burden of your wholeness onto someone else's shoulders. When you convince yourself that another human being is the source of your fulfillment, you unconsciously give away your power and make yourself dependent on their presence, their moods, their validation. You create a bond not out of mutual strength, but out of need, and such a bond will always be fragile. For the moment the other fails to meet your expectations, you feel abandoned and hollow, not because they have truly left you, but because you have mistaken them for the foundation of your being. Carl Jung understood this error well. He warned that love becomes destructive when it is confused with possession, when it is seen as the filling of an inner void rather than the meeting of two complete individuals. If you are not whole in yourself, you will inevitably use the relationship as a crutch, as a way to escape from your own loneliness, your own questions, your own shadow. But dependence disguised as love always breeds resentment. You will resent them when they cannot give you everything you ask for, and they will resent you for demanding more than they can provide. What began as affection then transforms into a silent struggle for freedom. The emptiness you experience is not the absence of the other, but the absence of yourself. You have not yet cultivated the inner ground upon which love can stand without collapsing. Relationships that begin in dependency often end in despair because they are built upon the unspoken fear that without the other, you are nothing. But this is an illusion, and like all illusions, it will eventually shatter. When it does, you will either fall into despair or awaken to the truth that no one outside you can grant you wholeness. The path forward requires a radical shift in perspective. You must learn to stand alone before you can truly stand with another. This does not mean isolating yourself or rejecting intimacy, but it does mean grounding your identity in something deeper than the shifting tides of someone else's approval or affection. It means embracing solitude not as a curse, but as the soil in which your individuality grows. Only when you no longer need someone else to complete you can you truly love them freely. For then, love is not a desperate attempt to fill a void, but a conscious choice to share your already overflowing being with another. And it is in this state that relationships lose their emptiness, because they are no longer built on the shaky foundation of need, but on the solid ground of mutual strength. Another reason you feel empty in relationships is because you are unconsciously projecting your own unresolved conflicts and hidden qualities onto the other person. Jung described projection as one of the most powerful and dangerous mechanisms of the psyche because it blinds us to ourselves. Instead of confronting our own insecurities, fears, or suppressed desires, we unconsciously attribute them to our partner. We expect them to carry what we refuse to face, and in doing so, we distort reality. You may find yourself criticizing them for qualities that are, in truth, part of your own shadow. You may blame them for your unhappiness when it is, in fact, rooted in your own lack of self-awareness. This projection creates a cycle of dissatisfaction, because no partner can live up to the idealized images or carry the burdens you refuse to claim as your own. When you project, you are not truly in a relationship with the other person. You are in a relationship with an image of your own psyche reflected onto them. This illusion inevitably collapses when reality breaks through and the other reveals themselves to be human, flawed, and limited. The disappointment that follows is not really about them failing you, but about you waking up from the fantasy you yourself created. The emptiness comes from the loss of this illusion, leaving you unprepared to face the reality of who they are and who you are. Jung believed that projection is both a danger and an opportunity. It is dangerous because it prevents you from seeing the truth, but it is also an invitation to discover what you have disowned in yourself. Every strong emotional reaction toward another, whether it be love, hatred, jealousy, or admiration, is a clue pointing back to a part of you. If you feel suffocated by your partner's neediness, perhaps it is because you fear your own dependence. If you idealize their strength, perhaps it is because you have neglected to cultivate your own. To dissolve projection, you must ask yourself with radical honesty, what of myself am I seeing in this person? What is mine that I am pretending belongs to them? The emptiness you feel is therefore not a failure of love, but the absence of self-recognition. When you rely on projection, you never meet the other as they are, and you never truly meet yourself. A genuine relationship requires that two individuals stand face to face, not as mirrors of each other's shadows, but as beings who have begun to reclaim what is theirs. The work of withdrawing projections is painful, for it forces you to confront truths you would rather avoid, but it is also liberating. Once you begin this work, relationships become less about clinging to illusions and more about encountering another soul in their realness. And in that realness, there is no emptiness, only the possibility of authentic connection. Emptiness in relationships also arises when you enter them with the unspoken expectation that the other person will heal the wounds you have never addressed in yourself. Many people, without realizing it, look for a partner to fill the void left by childhood neglect, rejection, or abandonment. They search for someone who will provide the unconditional love they once craved but never received. Yet, when you demand that another person play the role of your healer, you place an impossible weight upon them. No partner can rewrite your past, repair your fractured sense of self, or complete the inner work that belongs to you alone. Instead of intimacy, what develops is dependency, where the relationship is less about genuine love and more about survival. This dependency often disguises itself as devotion, but underneath it lies fear, the fear of being alone, the fear of facing yourself without distraction. The partner becomes a crutch rather than a companion, and as time passes, the imbalance grows heavier. The other may begin to feel suffocated by your unspoken demand to cure your inner wounds, while you, in turn, feel disappointed that they fail to live up to the savior image you unconsciously imposed on them. This cycle inevitably leads to emptiness because you are not relating from strength, but from a place of lack. Jung would say that the path to wholeness cannot be outsourced. To place the burden of your healing onto another is to avoid individuation, the essential process of becoming whole within yourself. Relationships can support and mirror your growth, but they cannot substitute for it. The task of making peace with your past, of confronting your shadow, and of integrating your inner fractures is yours to carry. Until you embrace that responsibility, you will continually feel betrayed, not because others have failed you, but because you have failed to reclaim yourself. The paradox is that once you stop seeking someone to fix you, you actually become capable of love. When you no longer see the other as a tool for your healing, you can finally see them as they are, another imperfect, striving human being. Love becomes less about desperation and more about communion. It shifts from a demand to an offering, from a hunger to a sharing. Only when you heal the emptiness within can you enter into a relationship without turning it into a battlefield of unmet needs. And in that moment, the bond transforms from dependency into true intimacy, for you are no longer seeking to be completed, you are seeking to connect. Another source of emptiness in relationships comes from the masks we wear to be accepted. From an early age, many of us learn that parts of who we are unwelcome, our anger, our vulnerability, our ambition, or our sensitivity. To survive, we hide these aspects of ourselves in the unconscious, and instead, we develop a persona, a carefully crafted mask designed to please, to charm, to fit in. When we bring this mask into a relationship, it may win affection, but it also ensures that the bond is never authentic. You may be loved for the mask you present, but deep down you know it is not the real you being seen or accepted. This discrepancy creates an inner emptiness because even when love is given, it does not reach the parts of you that remain hidden. Jung understood that the persona is necessary for navigating society, but when it dominates your intimate life, it becomes a prison. In relationships where you long to be known and understood, the mask prevents genuine connection. You smile when you are hurting, you agree when you wish to disagree, you play the role of the caretaker, the provider, or the strong one, while secretly yearning to express your suppressed needs. Over time, this role playing leads to resentment and fatigue, because no matter how much effort you put into being who you think you should be, you remain unseen for who you truly are. The tragedy is that many people believe this performance is what makes them lovable, and they fear that if they drop the mask, they would be rejected. Yet in clinging to the mask, they guarantee rejection of a deeper kind, the rejection of the true self. The emptiness they feel in relationships is not merely about what the other person does or does not give, but about the loss of authenticity. To be loved for a role is to remain lonely, even in the arms of another. To heal this, one must begin the courageous work of dismantling the mask, of gradually revealing the hidden parts of the self. This is not done recklessly, but with awareness, by first acknowledging within yourself the qualities you have denied, and then allowing them to emerge in safe and honest ways. The more you dare to bring your authentic self into the relationship, the more you create the possibility for true intimacy. It may mean some bonds will fall away, for not everyone can love the real you. But it also means that those who remain will be connecting with your essence, not your performance. Emptiness is replaced by presence when the mask is dropped. Instead of being trapped in a cycle of pretending and fearing exposure, you begin to live and love as you are. And in that authenticity, relationships no longer feel like a hollow exchange, but like a meeting of souls, where love flows not to the mask, but to the self that was once hidden. Another root of emptiness in relationships is the inability to establish and maintain boundaries. Without boundaries, you are not truly engaging as an individual, but dissolving into the other person, confusing their needs with your own. This may feel like love at first, because you are giving, sacrificing, and merging. But over time, it erodes your sense of self. When you cannot say no, when you allow others to overstep or define your limits, you become a reflection of their desires rather than an expression of your own. The result is an inner hollowness, because your life is lived for them, not for yourself. Jung emphasized the importance of individuation, the process of becoming whole and distinct. Relationships without boundaries obstruct this process, because they demand conformity and self-denial. If you are constantly bending to avoid conflict or suppressing your truth to preserve harmony, you are betraying yourself. That betrayal slowly transforms into emptiness, as you realize the bond is not based on mutual respect, but on your submission. You may even begin to resent the other person, but beneath that resentment is often anger at yourself for allowing your lines to be crossed. Boundaries are not walls, they are bridges that define where you stand and where the other person begins. They are the markers that allow you to engage authentically, to give freely without feeling depleted, and to receive without guilt. In their absence, relationships feel consuming and suffocating because your energy is spent maintaining someone else's version of reality while your own withers. This lack of balance ensures that even when you are surrounded by others, you feel empty, unseen, and unanchored. The emptiness deepens when boundaries are confused with love itself. Many people mistake self-sacrifice for intimacy, believing that giving everything is proof of devotion. But in truth, such sacrifice leaves nothing of the self to share. Love without boundaries becomes parasitic. One feeds while the other diminishes. Real intimacy arises when two whole individuals meet, not when one person dissolves into the other. Without boundaries, relationships fail to provide nourishment to either side, and what remains is dependency disguised as connection. Reclaiming fullness requires the courage to assert where you stand, to risk disappointing others in order to remain true to yourself. This does not destroy love, it refines it. It makes space for relationships built on authenticity rather than control, on respect rather than submission. In drawing boundaries, you preserve your essence, and only then can another truly meet you as you are. It is in this meeting of two distinct selves that relationships transform from hollow performances into sources of genuine vitality. The emptiness fades not because someone else fills it, but because you are no longer abandoning yourself in the name of love. Instead, you are honoring your individuality, and in doing so, you invite a connection that is real, nourishing, and alive. Another profound reason many people feel empty in relationships is the projection of their own unlived life onto others. Jung observed that what we repress within ourselves does not vanish. It seeks expression through the people we become attached to. When you ignore your own desires, passions, and potential, you unconsciously place them onto your partner, expecting them to embody what you have denied in yourself. You may admire their strength, their creativity, or their freedom, not realizing that these are qualities your own soul is starving to express. This creates an illusion of wholeness while you are with them, but the illusion shatters when they fail to live up to your expectations or when the relationship ends, leaving you feeling hollow and betrayed. The emptiness arises because you are not truly engaging with the other person as they are, but with an image, a mirror of your disowned self. Love built on projection cannot last, because no one can carry the burden of being both themselves and the embodiment of your missing pieces. The disappointment that follows is not just with them, it is with yourself, though rarely recognized as such. You may even repeat the same cycle with different people, always searching for someone who will finally complete what only you can awaken within. Relationships grounded in projection create a dangerous dependency. Instead of developing your inner world, you outsource it, making your sense of meaning contingent on someone else. This ensures that when they falter, when they show their humanity, the void inside you reappears with greater intensity. That is why so many relationships oscillate between idealization and despair. You are not dealing with reality, but with the fragile fabric of your own unclaimed potential. To overcome this emptiness, one must reclaim the projections and recognize them for what they are, reflections of the unlived life within. If you admire your partner's courage, ask yourself where your own courage is waiting to be lived. If you envy their freedom, question how you have imprisoned yourself. If you resent their power, confront the ways you have given yours away. Each relationship then becomes a map to your own shadow, showing you what you must integrate rather than escape. The path to fullness lies in withdrawing these projections and cultivating within what you once demanded from others. Only then do relationships become true partnerships rather than desperate attempts to fill a void. Love shifts from dependency to authenticity, from projection to presence. You no longer need the other to complete you, for you are already becoming whole within yourself. In this state, the bond enriches you rather than drains you, because it is no longer an unconscious search for what you lack. It is a conscious meeting of two beings who have faced their shadows and no longer seek completion in another's reflection.